At 52 years old, Marcus Chen sat in his car outside the office building where he'd worked for 18 years, holding a cardboard box with his personal belongings and a termination letter. Today, that same man employs over 300 people across 4 states and teaches business resilience at major universities. Marcus had always believed that loyalty meant everything. For 18 years, he showed up at Meridian Financial every single day, never missed a deadline, never caused drama, never asked for more than he thought he deserved. He was the guy who stayed late to help colleagues, who volunteered for the difficult projects, who believed that if you just kept your head down and worked hard, the company would take care of you. That Tuesday morning in March started like any other. Marcus arrived at 7:30, made his coffee, checked his emails, and prepared for what he thought would be another routine day managing the regional accounts. His wife, Sarah, had texted him earlier about their daughter's college graduation next month. They'd been planning this celebration for months. Emma was going to be the first in their family to get a degree, and Marcus felt proud knowing his steady job had made it possible. The call came at 10:15. Human Resources needed to see him. Marcus wasn't worried. In 18 years, he'd never had a single negative review. His numbers were solid, his clients trusted him, and he'd just closed a major deal the week before. He walked into that sterile conference room, expecting maybe a new project assignment or a discussion about his upcoming performance review. Instead, he found 3 people he barely knew, sitting at a long table with documents spread in front of them. The words hit him like a physical blow. Restructuring, cost-cutting measures, position eliminated, immediate termination. After 18 years of dedication, of sacrificing family dinners and weekend plans, of believing he was building something stable, Marcus was being dismissed like he'd never mattered at all. The severance package was insulting. 6 weeks' pay for 18 years of service. No continuation of benefits. No consideration for the fact that finding a new job at 52 would be nearly impossible in a market that worshipped youth and innovation. Marcus sat there listening to the HR representative explain his options, but all he could think about was how he was going to tell Sarah, how he was going to explain to Emma that her graduation celebration might have to be canceled, how he was going to face his neighbors who saw him as the stable, successful guy who had it all figured out. Walking to his car with that pathetic cardboard box, Marcus felt something inside him break. Not just his pride, but his entire understanding of how the world worked. He'd played by every rule, followed every expectation, and it meant nothing. The company had moved on without him before he'd even left the parking lot. His replacement was probably already being interviewed, some ambitious 30-something who would work for half his salary and never question anything. The drive home felt endless. Marcus sat in his driveway for 20 minutes, staring at the house he'd been paying on for 15 years, knowing that without his income, they'd lose it within months. Sarah's part-time job at the local library barely covered groceries. His retirement savings, which had never been impressive, wouldn't last 6 months if they had to live on it. At 52, Marcus faced the terrifying reality that everything he'd worked for, everything he'd built, was about to disappear. That night, after telling Sarah and watching her face crumble, after seeing Emma try to be brave while suggesting they skip her graduation dinner, Marcus lay awake staring at the ceiling. For the first time in his adult life, he had no plan, no clear next step, no belief that hard work and loyalty would save him. The man who had always been the reliable provider, the steady presence his family counted on, felt completely lost. The rejection letters started arriving within the first month. Marcus had sent out over 60 applications, each one carefully crafted, each one highlighting his 18 years of experience and dedication. But every response was the same polite variation of "we've decided to move forward with other candidates." The few interviews he managed to secure were humiliating experiences where 20-something hiring managers looked at him like he was a relic from another era. By the 3rd month, the savings account was nearly empty. Marcus had swallowed his pride and taken a part-time job stocking shelves at a grocery store during the overnight shift. The pay was barely minimum wage, but it was something. He'd leave the house at 10 p.m., work until 6 a.m., then spend his days sending applications and trying to stay awake. His body ached constantly, and the financial pressure was crushing. But what hurt most was the look in people's eyes when they saw him there. The worst part wasn't the physical exhaustion or even the money problems. It was watching his family lose faith in him. Sarah had stopped talking about the future. Emma had quietly taken out additional student loans and found a work-study job, trying to become financially independent as quickly as possible. Marcus felt like he was becoming invisible in his own life, a burden rather than a provider. One Friday night in June, after another rejection email, Marcus found himself sitting on the back porch at 2 a.m, too tired to sleep, but too anxious to rest. That's when he noticed Mrs. Patterson next door, struggling with her computer through her lit kitchen window. She was 78, lived alone since her husband died, and Marcus had helped her with small tasks around her house for years. Without really thinking about it, Marcus walked over and knocked gently on her door. Mrs. Patterson was nearly in tears, trying to video call her son in California, but unable to figure out the technology her daughter had set up for her. Marcus spent an hour showing her how to use the video calling app, how to adjust the camera, how to troubleshoot connection issues. When they finally got her connected with her son, the joy on her face was overwhelming. As Marcus was leaving, Mrs. Patterson grabbed his arm. She told him that her neighbor across the street, Mr. Rodriguez, had been struggling with his smartphone for months, too embarrassed to ask his teenage grandchildren for help again. She mentioned the Thompsons down the block, both retired teachers who wanted to use their tablet to stay in touch with their scattered family, but found the technology intimidating. That conversation planted something in Marcus's mind. Over the next week, he couldn't stop thinking about it. These weren't isolated problems. In his neighborhood alone, there were dozens of older adults who owned devices they couldn't really use, who wanted to stay connected with family, but felt left behind by technology that seemed designed for people half their age. Marcus started paying attention differently. At the grocery store, he overheard conversations between older customers and their adult children about Facebook, about sending photos, about video calls that never worked right. He noticed the frustration, the embarrassment, the feeling of being excluded from a world that was moving too fast for them to follow. The idea came to him gradually, not as a lightning bolt, but as a slow recognition of something that had been right in front of him all along. What if there was a way to bridge that gap? What if someone could teach technology in a way that felt safe and patient and understanding? What if his years of experience dealing with people, his natural patience, his ability to explain complex financial concepts in simple terms, could be applied to helping people understand technology? For the first time in months, Marcus felt something other than despair. It wasn't hope exactly, not yet, but it was possibility. He started researching, spending his few free hours learning about how other people were addressing this problem, what services existed, what gaps remained unfilled. The more he learned, the more convinced he became that this wasn't just an idea, it was an opportunity. Marcus spent the next month learning everything he could about technology education for seniors. He watched YouTube videos, read articles, and most importantly, he started talking to older adults in his community. What he discovered was that the existing solutions were all wrong. Computer classes at the library were too fast and too technical. Younger relatives were impatient and spoke in jargon. Technology companies designed their products for digital natives, then offered customer service that assumed basic knowledge most seniors didn't have. The breakthrough came when Marcus offered to help Mrs. Patterson's entire book club with their devices. 8 women, all over 65, gathered in Mrs. Patterson's living room on a Thursday afternoon. Marcus brought a simple handwritten guide he'd created, breaking down smartphone basics into steps that made sense to people who still remembered rotary phones. Instead of rushing through features, Marcus started with just one thing: how to make a phone call. Not how to add contacts, or set up voicemail, or customize ringtones. Just how to dial a number and answer when someone called. He spent 30 minutes on that single function, letting everyone practice, answering questions that seemed obvious but weren't, making sure everyone felt confident before moving on. The transformation was remarkable. Women who had been intimidated by their phones were suddenly engaged, asking questions, helping each other, laughing when they made mistakes instead of feeling frustrated. By the end of 2 hours, each woman could make calls, send text messages, and take photos. More importantly, they felt capable of learning more. Word spread quickly. Within 2 weeks, Marcus had requests from 12 more people. He started charging $25 for a 2-hour session, which felt almost wrong given how grateful people were. But Sarah encouraged him to value his time. The grocery store was understanding when Marcus asked to reduce his hours to part-time. They'd seen how exhausted he was and knew he was overqualified for the position. Marcus developed a system that went against everything the tech industry believed about education. Instead of comprehensive courses that covered everything, he focused on specific problems. One session for learning to video call grandchildren, another for understanding social media basics, a third for online banking safety. Each session built confidence without overwhelming people with information they didn't need. The most important discovery was that older adults didn't just want to learn technology, they wanted to feel included in their family's digital lives. They wanted to see photos of grandchildren posted online, to participate in group chats, to feel like they understood the world their younger relatives inhabited. Marcus wasn't just teaching button presses and menu navigation. He was reconnecting families. By October, 6 months after losing his job, Marcus was working with over 40 regular clients. He'd developed a reputation for patience and clarity that spread through seniors' networks faster than any advertising could have achieved. The income wasn't replacing his corporate salary yet, but it was steady and growing. The real validation came when Mrs. Patterson's son visited from California. He'd been frustrated for years, trying to help his mother with technology over the phone, often ending calls in mutual exasperation. After working with Marcus, she was confidently video calling, sharing photos, and even playing online games with her grandchildren. Her son pulled Marcus aside and offered to pay him double to expand his services to other cities where he had friends struggling with the same issues. That conversation made Marcus realize he wasn't just solving a local problem. He was addressing a massive national need. Millions of older adults owned smartphones and tablets they couldn't fully use. Adult children everywhere were struggling to help their parents stay connected. The technology industry was creating more complex devices every year while ignoring an entire generation that wanted to participate but didn't know how. Marcus started documenting his methods, creating guides that other people could use, thinking about how to scale his approach beyond individual sessions. For the first time since losing his corporate job, Marcus wasn't just surviving. He was building something new. The expansion happened faster than Marcus ever imagined possible. By January, 1 year after his termination, he had trained 12 other instructors across 3 states. The key insight that transformed everything came when he realized that his best students weren't just learning technology. They were becoming ambassadors who brought their friends and family members to future sessions. Marcus had stumbled onto something the tech industry had completely missed. Older adults learned best from people who understood their perspective, who had patience for their questions, and who treated their concerns as legitimate rather than outdated. His instructors weren't tech experts or recent college graduates. They were people like himself, mostly between 45 and 60, who had experienced their own struggles with technology and could relate to their students' frustrations. The business model evolved organically. Marcus started offering 3 types of services: individual sessions for specific problems, small group classes for general skills, and what became his signature offering, family technology days where multiple generations learned together. The family sessions were brilliant because they solved the communication gap that caused so much frustration. Instead of a 20-year-old trying to explain Instagram to their grandmother in 10 minutes, Marcus facilitated conversations where both generations learned to understand each other's perspectives. Corporate partnerships changed everything. Marcus reached out to a regional phone company that was losing older customers to competitors. Instead of offering senior discounts, which felt patronizing, Marcus proposed technology confidence classes that would help their existing customers use more services. The pilot program was so successful that within 6 months, Marcus had contracts with 3 major telecommunications companies and 2 tablet manufacturers. The breakthrough came when Marcus developed his Technology Confidence Certification program. Instead of teaching people to use specific devices, he focused on building general digital literacy and confidence. Students learned problem-solving strategies that applied to any technology, developed vocabulary for asking effective questions, and most importantly, overcame the fear that kept them from exploring new features. The certification program allowed Marcus to franchise his approach. He created training materials for instructors, developed standardized curricula, and established quality control systems that ensured consistent results across all locations. By the end of his second year, Marcus had certified instructors in 47 cities across 12 states. What surprised everyone, including Marcus, was how profitable the business became. Older adults were willing to pay premium prices for quality instruction that respected their time and intelligence. Corporate clients valued the measurable results. Customers who completed Marcus's programs used more services, upgraded their devices more frequently, and required significantly fewer customer service calls. The empire Marcus built wasn't based on revolutionary technology or complex business strategies. It was built on empathy, patience, and the recognition that an entire generation had been left behind by an industry obsessed with youth and speed. His instructors were trained not just in technical skills, but in understanding the emotional barriers that made technology intimidating for their students. By his third year, Marcus employed over 150 people directly, with another 150 certified independent instructors using his methods. The business had expanded beyond individual instruction to include corporate training, senior living community partnerships, and online resources. Revenue exceeded $2 million annually. But more importantly, Marcus had created a sustainable model that was genuinely improving people's lives. The unexpected twist that no one saw coming wasn't just Marcus's success. It was how his approach revolutionized technology education for seniors across the entire industry. Major companies started hiring his firm to consult on product design, making their devices more accessible to older users. Universities invited him to speak about age-inclusive technology. The man who had been dismissed as obsolete at 52 had become a recognized expert in one of the fastest-growing market segments in America. Marcus's method worked because it addressed the real problem. Not that older adults couldn't learn technology, but that technology companies had never bothered to teach it properly. By treating seniors as intelligent customers rather than technological obstacles, Marcus had built something that benefited everyone involved. Today, Marcus Chen stands in front of business students at Stanford University, explaining how the most devastating moment of his life became the foundation for the most meaningful work he'd ever done. The corporate job that defined him for 18 years now feels like preparation for something much more important. He teaches these young entrepreneurs that success isn't about having the most innovative idea. It's about recognizing problems that everyone else has learned to ignore. The numbers tell part of the story. Marcus's company, Silver Bridge Technology Education, now operates in over 200 cities across the United States and Canada. They've trained more than 50,000 older adults and employ over 300 people. But Marcus is more proud of the letters he receives from families who can now share their lives across generations. From seniors who feel confident exploring technology independently. From adult children who no longer dread trying to help their parents with digital problems. The business continues to evolve. Marcus has expanded into technology design consulting, working with companies to create products that are genuinely accessible to users over 50. He's developed online training programs for people in rural areas who can't access in-person instruction. He's partnering with healthcare systems to help seniors use telemedicine platforms, with financial institutions to improve digital banking accessibility, and with social media companies to create safer online environments for older users. What Marcus learned from his journey is that age discrimination in employment isn't just cruel, it's economically stupid. The experience, patience, and emotional intelligence that made him seem obsolete in corporate finance turned out to be exactly what the technology education industry needed. His ability to communicate complex ideas clearly, developed through years of explaining financial products to confused customers, became his greatest business asset. The lesson Marcus teaches isn't about technology or business strategy. It's about resilience and recognition. When life destroys the identity you've built, you have a choice. You can fight to recreate what you lost, or you can look for what you're meant to build next. Marcus spent months trying to get another corporate job because he couldn't imagine himself as anything other than what he'd always been. Success came when he stopped trying to go backward and started paying attention to the opportunities that were right in front of him. Marcus's family has been transformed by the journey as much as he has. Sarah now manages the company's customer service training programs, bringing her natural empathy and communication skills to help instructors better serve their students. Emma graduated debt-free, worked for the company for 2 years after college, and now runs a nonprofit that provides free technology education to low-income seniors. The financial security Marcus thought he'd lost forever has been replaced by something much stronger. A business that creates value for everyone involved. The most important lesson Marcus shares is about dignity. Corporate America had taught him that his value decreased with age, that loyalty was weakness, that security came from pleasing people who saw him as replaceable. Building his own business taught him that real security comes from solving problems that matter, from treating people with respect, from creating something that makes the world slightly better. When Marcus speaks to people facing similar transitions, whether they're dealing with job loss, career changes, or feeling obsolete in a rapidly changing world, he tells them that their experience isn't a liability. The patience they've developed, the relationships they've built, the problems they understand that younger people don't even see, these are advantages waiting to be recognized. The empire Marcus built isn't measured just in revenue, or employees or geographic expansion. It's measured in the thousands of older adults who no longer feel excluded from their families' digital conversations, in the families who can stay connected across distances, in the demonstration that business success and human dignity can work together. At 57, Marcus Chen has learned that being fired wasn't the end of his career. It was the beginning of his true work. The unexpected twist wasn't just that he built a successful business, but that losing everything he thought mattered allowed him to discover what actually did. End of the story. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories of overcoming, and leave your comment below. Your message might brighten someone's day. See you in the next video.